Title: Return of the Condor. Heroes. Chapter 1. The Ghost of Peach Blossom Valley. The early spring rains had washed over the hills of Peach Blossom Valley, painting the forests in hues of pink and green. Mist clung to the lowlands like silken veils, and the river that ran through the valley shimmered with fallen petals. Few dared venture here, for the valley was said to be haunted, not by spirits, but by the lingering presence of a deadly past. Among the cracked stones and moss-covered shrines, a boy crouched low, gathering firewood and wild ginger. Barefoot and clad in patched robes that had seen too many winters, the boy moved with quiet familiarity. His name was Yang Wei, 15 winters old, orphaned since birth and raised by a wandering monk who vanished 2 years prior. Since then, he had survived alone, begging in nearby villages, stealing when he must, and returning always to the ruins of the Peach Blossom Temple, where the mountain winds carried whispers of the past. On this day, as sunlight pierced the mists, he found himself deeper in the forest than usual. A strange pull guided him, leading him past a stone arch overgrown with vines. He knelt to pry a twisted root from the soil, and his hand struck metal. A low chime, like a bell, sounded as he uncovered a black iron box buried beneath fallen leaves and mud. It bore carvings, birds in flight, a broken sword, and the seal of the Crimson Hawk clan, a name he had only heard in ghost stories. He looked around. No sign of life. Curiosity beat stronger than caution. With effort, he forced the rusted lock. The lid creaked open. Inside lay a silk-wrapped scroll, sealed with wax stamped by a hawk sigil, and a slender dagger sheathed in black lacquer, cold to the touch but untarnished by time. The moment he touched the scroll, the wind stirred violently. You should not have opened that. Yang Wei jumped back, drawing the dagger instinctively. An old man stood by the nearby tree, wrapped in gray robes that seemed part of the mist itself. His beard was unkempt, his posture slightly stooped, but his eyes burned like twin flames. "Who are you?" Yang Wei demanded. "Call me Chu Long, or call me nothing at all. The world believed me dead, and it may be better that way." The name struck like thunder in Yang Wei's chest. Chu Long, the one they called Ghost Saber, a legendary warrior who vanished after the Condor War 30 years ago. A traitor to some, a hero to others, and a ghost to most. "Why are you here?" Yang Wei asked. "Watching, waiting." Chu Long's gaze lowered to the box. "That scroll you found, it's a legacy, a dangerous one. It once belonged to my brother, Chu Fei Yang, master of the Eagle Blade art. He died protecting it from the Golden Order. That style, it was thought lost." Yang Wei blinked. "You mean this is martial arts?" Chu Long nodded. "The kind no one teaches anymore, because it kills, because it liberates, and because it cannot be tamed." He stepped forward and placed a weathered hand on Yang Wei's shoulder. "If you wish to learn, I will teach you." "Why me?" "Because you have nothing, and those with nothing are the only ones who can truly shape fate." Yang Wei felt something stir in his blood, a longing he'd never known. For the first time, someone had offered him more than pity. "Yes," he said. "Teach me." Long led him to an ancient pavilion hidden behind thick bamboo, the floor cracked but stable. There, under the falling blossoms, Yang Wei began his training. At first, it was brutal. Long taught him not with kindness but with silence and steel. Each dawn, Yang Wei struck a wooden post until his hands bled. Each dusk, he balanced jars of water on his shoulders as he climbed narrow trails. The scroll contained not just movements, but philosophies. The blade was not merely for cutting, but for severing illusions. Each stroke of the Eagle Blade art mirrored a truth of nature, swift, elegant, ruthless. Within 3 months, Yang Wei could wield the dagger like an extension of his soul. But peace was never meant to last. One night, while Yang Wei practiced near the temple's threshold, the wind carried more than blossoms. Flames rose in the distant village. Riders in black descended the hills, the banner of the Golden Order fluttering behind them. Chulong's face grew grim. "They've come for the scroll." Yang Wei tightened his grip on the dagger. "Let them come." "You are not ready." "Then I will become ready." And so it began. Not merely a battle for survival, but a war for legacy. The boy, raised among ruins, would not only revive the forgotten blade style, he would become the flame that reignited the martial world. Chapter 2. The Duel Beneath Plum Blossom Hill. Snow had just begun to melt along the edges of Plum Blossom Hill when rumors spread through the martial world. 2 disciples from rival sects had agreed to a duel under the first full moon of spring. Though the hill was remote, secluded by bamboo forests and winding mountain paths, hundreds of pugilists and onlookers journeyed there, drawn by curiosity and the promise of history in the making. On one side stood Yang Xuan, draped in the dark green robes of the ancient tomb sect. His expression was unreadable, cold as the air still clinging to winter. His techniques were refined and silent, perfected through years of solitude beneath the ground. Opposite him stood Mu Qianlan, the crimson orchid maiden of the Flower Valley sect. Her blade danced like wind through petals, graceful and unpredictable. A strange tension hung in the air, not of hatred, but of something deeper. Beneath her veil, her eyes searched Yang Xuan's face not as a rival, but as someone she had once known. The duel began with no formalities. Blades sang as metal kissed metal. Yang Xuan's movements were precise, like flowing water through narrow stone crevices. Mu Qianlan answered with vibrant flurries, as if painting chaos on a canvas only she could see. They matched each other, step for step, stroke for stroke. Spectators watched in stunned silence as the duel became a dance. The bamboo groves rustled in approval, and even the birds paused their songs. But something shifted. As Yang Xuan parried a sweeping arc from Mu Qianlan, his hand grazed hers. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, and the world blurred. Visions flooded their minds. A moonlit garden from years ago, shared laughter under plum blossoms, a promise once made and broken, a forbidden love, hidden by sect rules and torn apart by ambition and pride. The duel slowed. Yang Xuan stepped back, lowering his sword. "I cannot fight you," he said, voice low and steady. "Not because I fear your blade, but because I remember the warmth of your hand in mine." Mu Qianlan's sword trembled. "Then what are we to do?" she whispered. "Our masters would see us enemies. Our sects would call us traitors." "Then we are both," Yang Xuan said. "And yet, we are still ourselves." The murmurs from the crowd grew. Elders from both sects stepped forward, their faces dark with anger. But neither Mu Qianlan nor Yang Xuan turned away. Hand in hand, they left Plum Blossom Hill, stepping into exile, into legend. Chapter 3. The Sect of Whispering Shadows. Exile was not the end. It was the beginning. Yang Xuan and Mu Qianlan wandered through mountains veiled in mist, evading patrols, assassins, and the watchful eyes of both ancient tomb and Flower Valley sects. In the hush of night, they lit no fire. By day, they moved like phantoms across the landscape, guided only by memory and trust. They settled at the edge of Mount Wuhan, a forgotten peak haunted by legends. Here, stone ruins told of a vanished sect, the Whispering Shadows, said to have mastered techniques that allowed the body to merge with the wind, the voice to command beasts, and the heart to resist even death. Yang Xuan, already attuned to silence and stillness, studied the ruins' inscriptions. Mu Qianlan deciphered old scrolls, combining them with her family's herbal knowledge to recover lost internal arts. Days became months. Together they trained, meditated, and learned. When bandits raided a nearby village, they struck back, not as rogue disciples, but as masked guardians. Whispers began to spread. They say a pair of lovers dwell atop Wuhan Peak. They move unseen and strike with lightning. Some say they are demons. Others call them saints. But peace was fragile. From the north, the Iron Lantern sect expanded aggressively. They devoured villages, enslaved civilians, and hunted down all who resisted. Their leader, Master Shu Kun, the Iron Howl, was cruel and ambitious. He feared rebellion and sought to eliminate all rival legends, including the rumored couple on Mount Wuhan. Shu Kun sent his elite envoy, Lei Wuhan, a masked warrior known for storm-fast strikes and a blade that never rusted. On a moonless night, Lei Wuhan arrived. Yang Xuan met him on the narrow cliff bridge that led to their mountaintop refuge. Mu Qianlan stood behind, her palms charged with blossom mist energy. "I do not wish blood," Yang Xuan said, "but if you raise your sword, I will not falter." "You were once a disciple of the Tomb Sect," Lei Wuhan replied. "Now you are a myth. I am here to end myths." The battle erupted. Blades flickered under the stars. Yang Xuan's footwork was silent as drifting snow, while Lei Wuhan's blade sang of fury and wind. Mu Qianlan intervened when Yang was cornered, turning the duel into a dance of three. The lovers in harmony, the invader in defiance. They won, but barely. Lei Wuhan's final strike left Mu Qianlan wounded. As dawn rose, Yang Xuan stood over the edge of the cliff, holding his unconscious beloved. Below, Iron Lantern scouts waited. He raised a torn banner, a symbol from the whispering shadows. "To those who rule by fear," he shouted, voice echoing across the mountains, "we bring your reckoning." From that day forward, their names became more than whispers. They were a rebellion. Chapter 4. The Blossoming Storm. The Injury. Mu Qianlan sustained from Lei Wuhan's dagger ran deeper than flesh. The blade had been coated with a rare toxin known as soulbane venom, a poison that disrupted internal energy and dulled the senses. For days, she drifted in and out of fevered dreams, her once luminous energy flickering like a dying candle. Yang Xuan sat by her side, administering herbs, feeding her drops of purified spirit water, and meditating to channel warmth into her meridians. The sect disciples kept silent vigil, guarding the mountaintop sanctuary. Word of the Whispering Sect's stand against Lei Wuhan had spread, attracting both admiration and envy. Wandering martial artists climbed Mount Wuhan, seeking instruction, allegiance, or answers. But Yang Xuan could think of nothing beyond Qianlan. One night, as wind howled and lanterns swayed, she awoke. "Did we win?" she whispered. He smiled through tears. "Yes, but the war is only beginning." With her recovery came a new resolve. The near loss forced them to rethink their teachings. The Whispering Sect began adapting, building new techniques centered not just on stealth and speed, but on resilience, healing, and psychological warfare. Mu Qianlan designed an elixir that could purge most poisons. Yang Xuan mastered the Whispering Blade form, a technique where swordplay mimicked patterns of falling leaves, mesmerizing opponents before striking. Meanwhile, the Iron Lantern sect plotted revenge. Shu Kun, furious at his envoy's failure, unleashed a campaign of terror. Villages sympathetic to the Whispering Sect were burned. Informants infiltrated mountain paths. Bounties were offered for Yang and Mu's heads. At the heart of this chaos stood a girl named Lin Ruyu, a gifted but naive martial artist from a minor sect wiped out by Iron Lantern forces. Alone and bitter, she sought revenge, climbing Mount Wuhan with sword in hand, demanding to join the rebellion. Yang Xuan tested her resolve in silence. Mu Qianlan offered her medicine and patience. Over time, Lin's rage transformed into dedication. She became their most promising student, a symbol that even the broken could bloom again. Trouble soon struck from within. An ambitious disciple Bai Chen, once saved by Yang from an Iron Lantern patrol, grew envious of Lin's rapid rise. He whispered dissent among the ranks, claiming Yang had grown soft, Mu distracted, and the sect misguided. Late one night, he disappeared. Days later, Iron Lantern scouts surrounded a merchant caravan that had long traded with the Whispering Sect. The ambush was too well planned. Bai Chen had betrayed them. Yang Xuan rallied a force to rescue the traders. The battle was swift, but bloody. Among the wreckage, Bai Chen was captured. Rather than execute him, Mu Qianlan chose exile. "Let him carry the weight of his betrayal," she said. "Hatred cannot be our compass." Their mercy inspired loyalty, but also fear. Could kindness survive in such times? As spring painted the mountains in green and blossom, scouts reported movements. Zhu Kun himself was marching south. The Iron Lantern sect would strike soon. The storm had begun. Chapter 5. The Broken Pact. The battle against Lei Wuhan became a legend in the Whispering Sect. But for Yang Xuan, it was only the beginning of a deeper war. One not just fought with blades, but with hearts and loyalties. Mu Qianlan awoke days later, pale but recovering. Yang Xuan never left her side, tending to her wounds and holding her hand through fevered nights. Their bond grew stronger, tempered by danger and shared dreams. But their rise had not gone unnoticed. From the western borders, emissaries of the imperial court arrived. Cloaked in gold and crimson, they brought a letter bearing the imperial seal. The emperor had heard rumors of a hidden sect defending the realm's forgotten people. With the empire fractured by corruption and sectarian wars, he sought to unite martial clans under a single cause. "We offer you legitimacy," said Envoy Chen Rui, his voice calm, calculating. "The Whispering Sect shall be recognized as a defender of the empire, but you must pledge fealty. The Iron Lantern sect has refused. We prepare to crush them." Yang Xuan was torn. He had fought to protect, not to become a pawn. "I will consider your offer," he said. That night, Mu Qianlan voiced her doubt. "The emperor's reach is long. Today, he offers favor. Tomorrow, he may demand our obedience." Meanwhile, Lei Wuhan returned to Shukun, battered but alive. The Iron Howl was enraged by his envoy's failure. As punishment, he chained Lei in molten iron for 7 days before unleashing him with renewed wrath. "Let the Whispering Sect see what happens when myths challenge tyrants," Shukun growled. Then came betrayal. Among the recruits Yang Xuan had trained was a young man named Shen Mo, a quiet orphan who had shown uncanny aptitude in swordplay. But he had once belonged to a now extinct sect destroyed by the empire. Bitter and vengeful, Shen Mo had never truly pledged loyalty. Late one night, Shen Mo slipped away with stolen scrolls of the Whispering Shadow techniques and revealed the village S location to Shu Kun. On the eve of their alliance decision with the empire, Iron Lantern sect forces descended. Fires blazed. Screams tore through the night. Yang Xuan fought through flames to reach the children's dormitory. Mu Qianlan defended the wounded with waves of blossom mist. The battle was chaotic, and in its heart was Shen Mo, blade drenched in the blood of those who once called him brother. Yang Xuan confronted him beneath the burning gates. "You lived among us. We gave you a new name, a new chance." "You gave me a lie," Shen Mo spat. "I serve no emperor, only vengeance." Their duel shook the ground. In the end, Yang Xuan shattered Shen Mo's sword, but could not bring himself to kill him. Shen fled into the night, wounded. The cost was high. Half the village lay in ruin. Yang Xuan stood beneath the broken arch of their gate, holding the imperial scroll. "No more pacts," he said. "No more emperors. No more lies." He lifted his saber. "The Whispering Sect will rise as protectors, not subjects." and thus their war became one of truth. Chapter 6. Shadows Within the Flame. Smoke hung heavy over the ruined village like a morning veil. Ash coated the once vibrant banners of the Whispering Sect. Survivors gathered at the central courtyard, their faces streaked with soot, tears, and blood. Yang Xuan's voice cut through the silence. "We do not rebuild walls alone, we rebuild trust." In the days that followed, rebuilding began. But something had changed. The fire had not only burned buildings, it had shaken the very soul of the sect. Doubts festered. Were they truly safe atop Mount Wuhan, or were they luring destruction to their doorstep? Mu Qianlan, though recovering, bore new scars, not all visible. She threw herself into training, developing new defensive formations and refining her mist techniques. Her eyes had grown sharper, her voice more commanding. The near-death experience had made her a general as much as a healer. Yang Xuan convened the elders. "We must root out our weaknesses. No more half-truths. If we are to survive the storm, we must be wind and mountain alike." Among the refugees they had once taken in, a few were suspected of harboring lingering loyalties, to fallen sects, to the Iron Lantern, to chaos itself. The Whispering Sect launched an internal investigation, led by Elder Lin, a former palace strategist. Friendships were tested, secrets exposed. One youth, Mei Lin, was caught sending messages by Hawk to an unknown recipient. "We show mercy," said Mu Qianlan, "but we are not blind." Mei Lin was spared but exiled. Yang Xuan watched her descend the path from Yuhan with sorrow in his heart. Not all betrayals came from malice. Some came from fear. But amid this turmoil came unexpected aid. A wandering monk named Master Hui appeared. Bald, robed in ash gray, he arrived with 3 students and tales of distant wars. He had once been a guardian of the Celestial Archives, an ancient repository of martial wisdom long thought destroyed. "I have read of your whispering shadows," said Master Hui. "Your sect may be young, but its roots run deep. Deeper than you know." He shared scrolls thought lost, techniques that turned body into illusion, voice into thunder, presence into storm. Yang Xuan trained with him beneath moonlight, their shadows dancing against stone. Mu Qianlan discovered an ancient technique to cloud her presence entirely, the 100-petal veil. Together, they refined their skills. The Whispering Sect grew not only in numbers but in spirit. But beyond the mountain, Iron Lantern's fury grew. Shu Kun had begun forging alliances with warlords in the north. He promised them land, gold, and secrets stolen from the Emperor's vaults. In return, he demanded one thing: the annihilation of the Whispering Sect. Spies reported that Shen Mo had become Shu Kun's personal blade, and in the palace itself, the Emperor had fallen ill. Factions within the court stirred. Civil war loomed. Yang Xuan gathered his closest allies atop the Wuhan summit. "We are no longer a hidden refuge. We are a force, and forces must choose their place in history." As the stars wheeled overhead and wind whispered through pine, the Whispering Sect prepared, not just for survival, but for the fires of destiny. Chapter 7. The Path of Exile. In the charred aftermath of the Whispering Sect's near destruction, Yang Xuan stood alone on the edge of the southern cliffs, watching the sun rise over the ashes. The sect had lost many, but those who remained were more determined than ever. Grief forged purpose, and among the ruins, a new path began. Mu Qianlan, now fully recovered, took command of rebuilding. The children and elders were relocated to hidden caves, where natural formations and old talismans offered some protection. Yang Xuan, however, could not rest. With Shen Mo still at large and Shu Kun preparing for full invasion, he set off alone, into exile by choice. His journey took him across crumbling provinces and forgotten cities. Disguised as a wandering swordsman, he avoided both imperial agents and sectarian patrols. In the ruined city of Daluo, he encountered a masked woman known only as the Silent Phoenix. She guarded a forgotten temple library, home to ancient scrolls about the dragon saber art, a technique thought extinct since the First Age of Heroes. The Phoenix, fierce and enigmatic, tested Yang Xuan with riddles and duels before allowing him access. There, among the dust and candlelight, he learned that the dragon saber was not just a weapon, it was an idea, a path of harmony between destruction and mercy, steel and spirit. The saber was forged not of steel alone, but of the wielder's intent. Meanwhile, Zhu Kun consolidated power. With the Whispering Sect weakened and the Iron Lantern Sect rising, he declared himself Grand Marshal of the Nine Rivers, a move that threatened both imperial authority and martial autonomy. Word reached Yang Xuan through secret carriers. Zhu Kun planned to summon all sects to a grand assembly under threat of obliteration. Refuse and perish. Accept and be bound forever by his laws. Yang Xuan returned to the Whispering Sect with new insight, wielding a forged saber etched with lines of the Dragon Saber Creed. His presence reignited the flames of rebellion. "We will not attend his assembly," Yang Xuan said before the remaining elders. "We will bring it down." With Mu Qianlan at his side, he began training a new corps, the Saber Bloom, warriors who blended grace and ferocity, compassion and conviction. These were not assassins or monks. They were guardians of balance. The Whispering Sect rose once more, not in defiance, but in purpose. And as messengers from across the fractured empire whispered of rebellion, Yang Xuan knew the path of exile had not been an escape. It had been a pilgrimage. Chapter 8. The Gathering Storm. Autumn winds swept through the whispering peaks as Yang Xuan stood beneath the Moongate Pavilion. The sun cast long shadows, and beneath it, the Saber Bloom Corps trained in perfect harmony. Fluid, precise, unyielding. In the weeks since his return, the Whispering Sect had transformed. Secret forges burned beneath the mountain, healing halls bustled with alchemists, and scouts mapped trails that even the hawks would envy. It was no longer a sanctuary. It was becoming a fortress of the people's will. Yet the storm brewed beyond the peaks. Zhu Kun Ainas' call to assembly at the Iron Citadel drew responses from all corners of the martial world. Some sects, weary and leaderless, submitted. Others vanished overnight, refusing to bend the knee. The Empire sent envoys begging for peace, but no one trusted them anymore. In the northern Frostlands, the White Heron Sect pledged secret allegiance to Yang Xuan, sending word with snow falcons. From the Emerald Valleys, rogue monks of the Broken Bell Sect swore to defend the people, not politics. Whispers traveled faster than swords. Yang Xuan had become more than a warrior. He was becoming a symbol. Meanwhile, Mu Qianlan uncovered an ancient scroll hidden in the ruins of the forgotten sect. It told of the Harmony Seal, a relic capable of sealing martial energy across vast distances. If placed at the Iron Citadel, it could nullify Zhu Kun's dominance, but the scroll was incomplete. To complete it, they would need help from an unlikely source. Zhao Yue, the last known disciple of the Dragon Pavilion sect, had vanished years ago after refusing to assassinate a village elder under imperial command. Legends said she roamed the southern deserts, a ghost with a blade of light. Yang Xuan remembered her from his earliest days, distant, untouchable, brilliant. So he went south, across the red dust plains, through ruined monasteries and bone-dried towns. Bandits plagued the roads, but few challenged a man who walked with a saber that hummed like thunder. He found Zhao Yue meditating beneath the skeletal frame of a burned-out tree, her saber buried in sand beside her. "I thought you'd never seek me," she said, not opening her eyes. "I need your mind and your blade." "And your heart?" she asked, opening one eye with a hint of a smile. Yang Xuan hesitated. Then he knelt. "Only if you'll fight beside me." Zhao Yue rose, brushing dust from her robes. The Empire took everything from me. It's time we take it back. Together, they returned north. As the Iron Citadel readied its gates, thunder echoed in the valleys. The storm had gathered. Now it would break. Chapter 9. The Echoes of Destiny. The ruins of the Whispering Sect's village still smoldered when Yang Xuan made a solemn vow. No longer would he bend to the shifting politics of emperors or sects. From the ashes, he would forge a path led only by the will of the people and the teachings of righteousness. The survivors scattered to the forest caves where Mu Qianlan oversaw their recovery. Children practiced sword forms with wooden sticks, and elderly disciples taught the young about the lost martial codes. What was once a hidden sect now breathed like a living legend. Meanwhile, Zhu Kun, the Iron Howl, grew bolder. With his alliance to rogue generals and outlaws cemented, he marched eastward with a vast army. His new weapon, the Heavenly Juggernaut, a siege beast constructed of steel and flame, powered by forbidden techniques from the western wastes. In the north, whispers of rebellion stirred. Discontented sects and betrayed clans began to speak of the Whispering Sect as a symbol of resistance. Letters came hidden in bread loaves and sewn into cloaks, asking for guidance, for unity. Yang Xuan stood before his ragged warriors one morning beneath the old peach blossom tree. We are no longer whisperers. We are the roar against tyranny. They began training in earnest. Qianlan refined her blossom mist into a deadly art of crowd suppression, while old Master Li crafted new blades from fallen meteors. Scouts brought reports daily. Zhu Kun's army would reach the southern vale in a month. But not all was hopeful. Shen Mo, the traitor, now wore black robes bearing Zhu Kun's sigil. As Shu's right hand, he was building a dark sect called the Crimson Sabers, attracting the bitter and the lost. One evening, a messenger arrived with a jade pendant, the symbol of the long-lost hidden Jade Sect. With it came a letter. My name is Zhao Yue, daughter of the exiled Jade Princess. I offer my saber to your cause. Yang Xuan and Mu Qianlan traveled to the Moonspire Cliffs to meet her. There, amidst a temple carved into stone, Zhao Yue waited, calm, deadly, and poised. She bowed. I know the weight of betrayal and the pain of loss. Let me fight beside you. Yang Xuan nodded. Then, welcome to the Whispering Sect. Together, they returned with a plan. To strike first. A coalition was formed, 5 minor sects, exiles, healers, and spies. They would assault Zhu Kun's supply lines and lure the Heavenly Juggernaut into a ravine. Chapter 10. The Final Flame. The dawn that rose over the southern vale was shrouded in crimson mist. The valley, once fertile and filled with birdsong, now bore the footsteps of war. At its mouth stood the last resistance. The coalition forged by the Whispering Sect, the Jade Princess's exiles, and the forgotten sects of the realm. Yang Xuan donned his black robes edged in silver, the saber he had reforged from shattered blades strapped across his back. At his side stood Mu Qianlan, ethereal in her flowing white robes, and Zhao Yue, the storm-eyed warrior of legend. They were ready. Zhu Kun's army stretched for miles, a sea of armor and banners. The Heavenly Juggernaut roared as its gears turned, belching smoke and fire. Shen Mo rode before it, his eyes soulless beneath the helm. He was no longer the boy Yang Xuan once knew, only a specter of vengeance. This is our last stand, Yang Xuan said. Not for empire, not for sect, for the people who still believe. The battle began with a silent charge. Whispering Sect assassins struck first, vanishing into shadows. Qianlan unleashed waves of paralyzing blossom mist across the vanguard. Zhao Yue leapt into the fray, her jade saber a flash of green lightning. Yang Xuan clashed with Shen Mo atop the Juggernaut's back. Metal met metal. Each strike carried years of sorrow. You had a choice, Yang Xuan growled. I chose truth, Shenmo replied, and truth is ugly. Their duel set the machine ablaze. Beneath them, Zhao Yue coordinated an assault that drove Shukun's soldiers into the ravine. Then came the trap. Detonated charges collapsed the canyon walls, burying half the army. Shukun himself descended from the beast, a towering figure clad in dragon-scale armor. With a war cry, he charged Yang Xuan, saber against hammer, fire against wind. Shukun's strikes broke stone, but Yang Xuan had become more than a man. Channeling the full force of Whispering Shadow and years of pain, he struck true. Shukun fell. As flames engulfed the Juggernaut, Shenmo knelt, mortally wounded. Was I wrong all along? Yang Xuan looked at him, then at the rising sun. We were all wrong. Once. Shenmo breathed his last. The battlefield grew quiet. Survivors gathered, the old and young wept. Flowers began to bloom where blood had fallen. Later, in the rebuilt village, Yang Xuan stood with Qianlan and Zhao Yue. What now? Zhao Yue asked. We teach, Yang Xuan said. We heal. We guard the balance. The Whispering Sect was no longer hidden. It had become legend. And in the valleys of the south, they planted peach blossoms, so the wind would always carry the memory of those who stood for hope. Epilogue. The silence after thunder. Years passed after the fall of Shukun and the Crimson Sabers. The southern veil healed, not quickly but surely, like a wounded beast regaining its strength. Temples once razed were rebuilt with stronger stone, and the echoes of war gave way to the laughter of children practicing sword forms in peach blossom groves. Yang Xuan never returned to the sect halls as a leader. He chose the wandering path, visiting broken villages, offering his sword and wisdom where needed. He became a legend whispered in tea houses, the Wandering Flame, never seeking power, only peace. Mu Qianlan remained with the Whispering Sect, now reborn as the sect of blossoming truths. Under her guidance, it became a refuge for the orphaned, the betrayed, and those seeking redemption. Her name became a symbol not just of martial strength, but of renewal. Zhao Yue, daughter of exiled royalty, eventually returned to the remnants of the Hidden Jade sect and re-established it not as a ruling clan, but as a guardian order. Her saber's style, Jade Tempest, was taught only to those who had known true loss. Shenmo's fate was never confirmed. Some say he died in the final siege. Others say he roams the mountains, a ghost of guilt, searching for forgiveness he knows he'll never find. The Heavenly Juggernaut lies rusted and half-buried in the ravine, vines creeping through its iron ribs, a monument to ambition and ruin. Each spring, those who survived gather beneath the old peach blossom tree where Yang Xuan once gave his vow. They share stories, pay respects, and remember that true strength lies not in steel alone, but in unity, sacrifice, and love. And above them, petals fall like soft memories dancing in the mountain wind.